Hey everybody, so for this video in our EGG 202 video series, this one is going to cover our first Windows form application. So of course, to create our first Windows form application, we have to open up Visual Studio. So Visual Studio 2019. Now of course in the classroom, it has Visual Studio 2017, but really it's the same sort of concept, a little different interface, but same concept. So of course you want to create a new project. And up to this point, we've always done a C# console application. So now you want to go ahead and use a C# desktop application. So I'm going to go up to the top and search for C#. And right here, you want to select Windows Forms app .NET Framework. You don't want to try WPF. You want to use Windows Form app .NET Framework for C#. And this one, we're going to do a simple quadratic formula calculator. That's a pretty simple enough of an example. So to do this, well, I'm going to first create my project. I'll give it the name quadratic formula app, I guess. I already kind of worked on this earlier, but you want to make sure you go to the folder that you're actually going to be working from. So in the classroom, of course, use your network drive, but here I'm going to use my OneDrive. So documents, I'm going to go to EGG 202, I'll have my video code, and I'm going to create a new folder. So I'll right click over here, go to new folder. I'll call this also quadratic formula app. I'm going to select that folder, and of course the framework doesn't matter. I guess use the newest one on whatever system you're working through, and then hit create, and it's going to create this application into that folder. So give it a second here. And there is our first WinForms program. So pretty much this will be your canvas you're going to use to put all kinds of objects on. You can of course size the canvas to whatever size you want. So I'll keep it at this default size right there. And you're going to mostly use a toolbox to add different objects. So there's several types of objects. There's all Windows form objects. You're not going to need to use everything. Most of the common controls are what you're going to be using for the most part. This will be there for you to actually add stuff into your form. I'm going to go ahead and sort of close this. And then over here, this is your form1.cs. So form1.cs is going to be the CS code that's going to basically show the, it's going to create the view essentially. So let's double click on that file. And right now it's sort of, let's go to designer mode. So I'm going to right click, view code. Now this is sort of going to be basically your code view, and form1.cs is your design view. So we have all these set up. So anyway, so you're going to be mostly going to be writing your code here in a form1.cs, and the form1.cs design view is where you're going to be dragging and dropping content. So to get this, all you have to do is go to the form, right click, view code. Is going to allow you to start writing code for this program. So anyway, let's go ahead and sort of begin with this. So the first thing we're going to do in this program is we're going to have a couple of text boxes. One that takes in the constant or sort of coefficient for A, for B, and C. Then we'll have an output area, and then we'll have a button that's going to run the calculation portion. So let's go ahead and sort of set this up. So go to our toolbox. I'm going to first grab a label. So I'm going to left click on this and drag it into the form. And I'll drop it over here somewhere. Label. So labels are just mostly just for output purposes really. So I'm going to click on the label, and if you notice down here on the right side, here's where we can actually add sort of, we can add stuff to our label. We can add different, we can sort of set this up. So right now, I want this label to say sort of enter coefficient for A, because remember for the quadratic formula we have A, B, and C. So I'm going to scroll down here and find where it says text. Right there's our text. I'm going to rename this. I'll rewrite this and say enter coefficient A. You can see on the form it updated. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and create a few more forms. Let's go to Toolbox and then grab, not grab a few more forms, a few more labels, sorry. A few more labels. So let's see, where's our label right there? I'm going to click and drag this. And you can see here it allows you to auto align. So I want to align these, I suppose. So I'm going to align them to the left so that way they're kind of somewhat aligned, or at least to some degree. So for label 2, so if you click on label, if you click on this label right there, you notice this part here changes. So if I click on label 2, now the text here shows label 2. So I'm going to write this as enter coefficient B. Okay, and now I have one more label just for the last coefficient. So let's go to Toolbox, Label, and drag it. I'm going to try to outline or try to align it left with all of these so it looks somewhat decent. And for label 3, I'm going to change the text to be enter coefficient C. So let me see, I think it's not quite aligned, or I think I have to, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, that's fine. So let me go ahead and, this is kind of a little bit of, I did not want that to happen. I double clicked on this and it caused that to happen. That's fine. We'll go with that, I guess, for now. So anyway, let's go ahead and I'm gonna just make it a little nicer here. So, okay, so now we have our 3 prompts, and we want to be able to sort of be able to enter sort of content. We want to have an ability for the user to enter in some values. So to do this, go to our toolbar once again, and we want to go to text box. Text box is a way for a user to enter some inputs. I'm going to click and drag, and I'll sort of align this with this, like that. So it's going to be where the user, a little box where the user can actually enter some input. So for this, as you can see, if you click on one of these objects, it highlights it, but also you can see the this sort of properties window change for every object. So right now we're on a text box. So I want to leave the text blank, but I want to give this sort of text box a name because I'm going to be using this in my program to read from this and store it into a variable. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change the name of this to a name that sort of makes sense to me. So I'm going to go up to where it has the name field right there. And text box 1 is a good enough name, but I'd rather call it something more meaningful. So I'm going to say text box, txt, and then coef, and I'll call it A. So I guess for coefficient A. So I just give it txt in front just so I know that this object is definitely going to be a text box of some sort. Now, of course, you can even copy objects. I'm going to go ahead and sort of right-click, copy, and right-click paste to create more objects like that. So I'm going to try to align these nicely as well. I'm going to paste once more, so just a little faster, a little nicer shortcut to create multiple objects like that. And once again, these names are not really good because this one is called text box 1. This one is called text box 2. I want to give them better names. So for a name, I'm going to name this txt coef b, so for coefficient b. And now I'm going to rename this one to be txt coef c. So now I'm almost done. I want to have a couple of different sort of objects. I want to have a button that you can click on that's going to read these 3 elements, and it's going to allow us to sort of give us some output. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a few more labels here. So I'm going to have a label. I'm going to align it with this. And this label, I'm not going to give it a name because it has no real purpose. It's just there just for output purposes, or just to have it display a message or display a static message, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and give it the text sort of, I guess I'm going to say maybe x1 equals, just so it's like that. And I'll have another. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this one as well. I'm going to align it like nicely like this. And I'll have this one just be x2 equals. So these labels so far are all static. They're going to be the same throughout the whole program. So I'm going to have an output label where I'm going to have my program do some computation and output the results over here. So I'm going to go ahead now and just create two more labels for the output portion. So I'm going to, I guess I'll just create two labels manually like this. So go to Toolbox and then go to Label. I'm going to try to align it with the output, with the input boxes just so it's nice. Now this one, I'm going to give it sort of, I'm going to make it blank in a second. I'm going to first give this one a name because in my code, I'm going to in fact sort of have my program write some type of message to the label. So I'm going to have LBL X1. So this really means that LBL really stands for label. So I know in my code, if I have LBL or TXT, I sort of know what type of object this element is on my form. I'm going to go ahead and sort of copy and paste this over here. So I hit Control C and Control V to copy and paste. I'm going to label this as, I'm going to name this as LBL, LBL X2. So I'm going to clear these out. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just, for the text, I'm just going to blank this, maybe put a few spaces here, just so it's kind of, now it disappeared sort of. Now it didn't disappear, it's actually still there, except now it's not going to really have any text because we're going to actually have our program write text to that. So now what I'll do is I'm going to add my buttons. I'm going to have one button to calculate, one button, I guess, to quit the program. So button, I'm going to go ahead and just, I guess I'll try to outline it or sort of align it with these. I'll make another button. I'll right click, copy, right click, paste. I'll put another button over here. I guess this will be good enough. And right now, for the button, it also has its own set of fields. So button 1 has the name and also has text. So text, I'm going to go ahead and just maybe relabel this as compute. So you can see here that the text with this button is changed. I'm going to go ahead and give this name to be btn compute. So for any of the fields, any of the objects on your form that actually sort of have actual purpose, where our code will do work with it, you want to maybe give it a good name so you can easily refer to it in your program. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. So for this one, I'll say btn quit. And I'll go ahead and I'll just have the text displayed there to just be quit. So there's our design. I'll go ahead and I'll make this a little bit smaller as well, since it, I guess, that looks a little better. So there's going to be our look so far. So all we have to do is click and drag several objects, and then all we had to do so far was sort of give it some text. And then this one we didn't give it a name because these ones are not going to ever really change. But for any of, like for our text boxes, we gave them different names so we can refer to them in our program. And our buttons, we gave them names and texts. So far, nothing really too complicated there. I'm going to go and Control S to save everything. And if you run this program, you can of course hit Start up top, and then we'll just go ahead and run it. Give it a second here. And there's our program. And so far, it doesn't really do anything. If I hit any button here, nothing happens. I can go ahead and type, numbers. I can type in 67, 34, 11. Doesn't really matter what I put in there. Just gonna do that. But at least we have a functioning, or at least somewhat, our design does work. So this will run our program. Now, of course, up top over here for our form, it has form 1 written over there. We actually could change that by clicking on the actual form, so not on an actual component, but just on the form. Go up to the top. It's called form 1. I'm going to call this quadratic formula calculator. Or maybe I should give it a different, actually no, oh, never mind. So form 1, I think the text should be actually modified. My mistake, the text, sorry. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it, so I'm gonna have a text just say quadratic formula calculator. And you can see it's gonna update the text up there. So it does also look nice as well. So now we wanna add functionality to this program. So you want it where if I click on this compute button, I wanted to actually read in these 3 values and do some kind of output. So I'm going to go ahead and double click. So right here, the program is not running. It's just in this is my canvas that I sort of used to create my form. I'm going to double click on this and it goes to my code. And it creates this function, btn compute click. So this is actually, Windows form applications use this event-driven programming methodology, which is going to basically, it will run this function when we click. I accidentally, earlier, I created this function by accident. I would not remove this. If you do, the entire program will actually crash, or it will cause a problem because it sets up the event, and if you remove the function from your code, it can't find that function associated to that click event, and it's going to just sort of go nuts. So I would just say, don't remove any of these event functions from your program. I mean, of course you can fix it. I can help you during class with this, but it does cause an issue. So unfortunately, I have this right there. I can't undo that now. I don't want to redo the whole video, but anyway. So this function is going to run when I click on btn compute. Okay, perfect. So now what happens is I want to write some code in this function that's going to run my calculations. So I'm going to go ahead and create a variable. I guess I'm going to say double A, double B, and double C. They're not good variable names, double A, B, and C, but in this case they actually are, because that's going to be the coefficient names for the quadratic formula, A, B, and C. Okay. So now I have to actually get values from my input or from my form into these variables. Go into our form, we have these 3 input boxes. I call it txt coefficient A, txt coefficient B, and txt coefficient C. So just like we read in input from command line, same idea, we're going to say A equals txt coef A dot text. This retrieves the text from that object. Now, of course, we have to convert this because txt coef A dot text is going to give us that input in string form. You have to convert this into a double as always. So I'm going to say convert dot to double, and I'll put this string in there. So it's going to basically, all it's going to do is going to read the text from this txt coef A dot text. So it's going to take whatever I type here, it's going to take that text and it's going to load that into this A variable, but it'll first convert it to a double. Now let's do the same thing for the rest. So for B, it'll just be again txt coef B dot text. That's going to be the actual string stored in that text box. Then we're going to have this convert function again, convert to double. So we have to convert the string to a double as always, so nothing really too different there. And then C equals, I'll just go ahead and just sort of write this pretty quick. So dot to double txt coef dot text dot text. So the first step is, well, we read our values. Now, of course, double A, B, and C are local in this function. Now, if you're taking 135 right now, you might not learn about scopes yet, but if you go ahead and declare variables up here somewhere, they'll be global. If you declare variables inside of each function, then they're local in that function. So this variable A, B, and C cannot be used anywhere else. So for example, if I go ahead and say A equals, if I say A equals 10, that'll give us an error because A is not declared. So since we have A declared in this function, btn compute underscore click, A can only be used here. Now, of course, I could declare A above to make it global, but this is actually just good enough. Now, of course, I'm going to create some more variables. So double x1 comma x2, which will be our results. So now I'm going to go ahead and sort of have our quadratic formula here. So I remember, so it's going to be, for x1 it's going to be, I think, negative b plus, let me try, I think it's math dot square root. I think it's going to be just, I'm going to go ahead and just use math again, math dot power. And it's going to be b squared minus 4 times a times c. I think all over 2a, so I'm going to go ahead and put more parentheses here. So it's going to be all over 2 times a. So I believe that is the correct sort of quadratic formula. And you learn about power function and square roots also in 135. Same idea, we use math dot sqrt and then math dot pow. So same concept like C++, no difference whatsoever there. Now for x2, same argument, except now we're going to, I think it's actually just going to be b minus, so it's plus or minus, so the minus part will be for x2. So if I didn't mess up my quadratic formula, this should be the right formula. This is going to basically compute x1, x2. Perfect. So now I have to display the results. So what I'm going to do right now is we have our label, so LBL x1 dot text equals, I'm going to go ahead and put x1 out here. Oops, sorry, x1. But x1 is actually a double, so we have to store, so LBL x1. So LBL x1 is sort of this text that was actually kind of hidden, but it's that text field right here that we want to actually write our answer into. That's where LBL x1 is. So you want to go ahead and write something there. But of course you have to output this as a string, so we're going to go ahead and say x1 dot to string. So even doubles are objects in C#. So x1 dot to string returns it as a string, this decimal value. And same thing for the other one, LBL x2 dot text equals x2 dot to string. And that's really it. So this, I click on this button, it reads these three values into A, B, and C. It runs this formula to compute x1, x2, and it simply will output the results into LBL1 text field and LBL2's text field. Let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to click on start above. Let's try this out. I'm going to try to use values that's going to not cause a negative square root. Of course, we could, handle that, but I'm going to go ahead and just make this simple. I think 2, 6, and 3 should work. So 2, 6, 3, hit the compute button, and it output our results. That's what x1, x2 should be. Hopefully, I did correctly program this, but if I didn't, which I think I did because negative b plus b squared minus, yeah, I think this is actually correct. But either way, that's the result. And of course, I can, update this maybe to a different value, say to 2, hit compute, and it recomputes these results. So basically, as we can see, when I hit compute, this 2, 6, and 2, it stores into A, B, and C respectively. I computed the results, and I wrote the results into these two labels. That's basically really about all there is to this project. So let's go ahead and work a little bit more on this. So I want to do one thing. I want to have the quit button end the program. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the X above to stop this. And now I'm going to go back to my form and double click on this quit button to write, so that way I'll be able to write a function that gets triggered when quit gets clicked. So double click on it, and it goes into my program code. Now it creates this function, which is going to automatically get executed when I click on the quit button. So in this case, in order to do this, I believe you have to sort of, I think you have to say this Let me see, I forgot the actual, I think it's sort of this dot close, I believe. Yes, this dot close. Okay, there we go. So this dot close is going to end the program. It's just gonna just close the form. Let's go ahead and just check that out. So I hit quit, and it closed it. It ran this function. All its function did was this dot close. So one more thing I want to add to this before I end this video is, well, the one issue was when I went ahead and ran this program. So let's do this again. Let's just pick maybe different numbers. So 2.5, 7.8, and 1.5. So hopefully it's not going to cause any negative square roots to have happen, which I guess it doesn't. So it's going to always, so after I hit compute, we kind of want to maybe clear these out. That would be a good sort of, good sort of program if we just clear these out so we can go ahead and enter new values in. Let's go ahead and write that part of our code next. So I'm going to hit quit here. So once I'm done with this, I wrote my output. I'm going to go ahead and just clear out those text boxes. So I'm going to say txt.cofa.text equals that. That's a blank string. It's going to set this to a blank string after it's done. txt.cof.b.text equals a blank string, and then txt.cof.c.text equals blank string. So now basically it's going to just, so it's going to blank these strings out, or these text boxes out once we're done. Let's go ahead and check this out. Let's hit start. So I'll type in some numbers here. So once again, let's try 4.5. I'm not sure what will work well, but let's try 3.3 and 1.5. Hopefully it's not going to cause any divide by or square root of 0. Actually, I guess that did. But the good thing is, though, it cleared these buttons out, or these boxes out. Let's try 263. Hit compute. And it computes some result. But you notice that after it computed, all these boxes, or these text boxes, were sort of cleared out, because I guess this is what we kind of wanted it to do. So that was a very simple sort of, I guess, a half-hour tutorial on this. But anyway, I'll have more videos we'll sort of do that will sort of, just so we can augment and do more work. But this is just our basic first sort of application in terms of WinForms apps. So anyway, that's that for this video. So I guess thanks for watching. Take care. And till next time.